There is a distinct moment in life when you step into a room and the atmosphere feels undeniably wrong. You can sense it, a subtle shift in energy, the way eyes avert, or the polite smiles that fail to reach the eyes. It is as if you are invisible, or worse, an intruder. Then the realization hits. Something about your presence is causing others to look down on you, even if the sentiment remains unspoken. However, the truth is often less personal than it seems. Most of the time, this is not a reflection of your core identity, but rather a result of the habits you carry, behaviors that push people away without your conscious realization. I have been there myself, trapped in patterns that made me my own worst enemy. Yet, as the Stoics teach us, self-awareness is the gateway to transformation. Today, we will explore 7 habits that may be sabotaging your relationships and reputation, and how Stoic philosophy can help you break free from them. This journey is not about perfection. It is about progress. If you value the work we are doing here, the simple favor I ask is that you subscribe. Trust me, you do not want to skip any part of this video. The insights ahead could fundamentally change how the world perceives you. Let us begin. Number 1. Gossiping. We have all succumbed to it at some point. It seems hardwired into us, this urge to share the latest scoop, to be privy to someone else's drama. It feels innocent, perhaps even entertaining, because everyone enjoys feeling connected or part of the inner circle. But here is the unvarnished truth. Gossip is a double-edged sword. While you may feel a fleeting sense of bonding in the moment, every time you expose someone else's private affairs, those around you are silently wondering, if they speak this way about them behind their back, what are they saying about me? That is where the true damage is inflicted. Gossip creates a ripple effect of mistrust. No one will share their deeper thoughts or welcome you into their personal life if they fear you will broadcast their secrets the moment they leave the room. You are building walls, not bridges. I used to believe that gossiping made me relatable, a way to break the ice, but all it did was isolate me. Conversations remained shallow because true trust was absent. This is where Stoicism intervenes. The Stoics believed that what lies outside our control, such as other people's lives, is not worth our focus. Gossiping is the antithesis of this wisdom. It is a waste of mental energy on matters we cannot influence. Instead of becoming entangled in the drama of others, we should focus on mastering ourselves, our actions, our words, and how we present ourselves to the world. When we gossip, we do not just diminish others, we lower our own value. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." This is a powerful reminder that the energy spent discussing others is better utilized improving ourselves. Furthermore, gossip is often a shield used to avoid confronting our own flaws. It is far easier to critique another's missteps than to sit with our own discomfort. Stoicism challenges you to stop avoiding your reflection. Instead of discussing what someone else should fix, ask yourself, what can I mend in my own life? That shift alone can be transformative. If you find yourself in a group where gossip is the norm, it requires true strength to step away. And you know what? That is where genuine respect is earned. When you become the person who refuses to speak ill of others, people notice. They may not voice it, but they will respect you for it. You will cultivate a reputation as someone trustworthy, someone focused on substance rather than petty drama. Next time the whispers begin, remember, it is a choice. You can join the fray and erode the trust others have in you, or you can take the Stoic path, remain silent, and focus on what is within your control. You might be surprised by how much more peaceful life becomes when you stop worrying about everyone else and start working on becoming your best self. The respect you gain is far more satisfying than the temporary thrill of gossip. Number 2. Being passive-aggressive Let us be honest, we have all resorted to this. It is the classic "I'm fine" response when you are clearly anything but, or agreeing to a task with a "sure, whatever," while internally plotting a downfall. It feels like a clever method to avoid confrontation, does it not? You avoid starting an open fight, yet you still convey your frustration. The problem is that passive aggression is akin to trying to communicate via smoke signals during a thunderstorm. It fails, leaving everyone confused and exasperated. I used to think passive aggression was a strategic move. Why argue directly when you can cast a shadow of doubt and make the other person feel guilty without ever voicing the actual problem? But the reality is that no one is a mind reader. And even if they were, they would likely ignore those signals because deciphering them is exhausting. Instead of resolving the issue, you create a tension where nothing is fixed and everyone is annoyed. You feel frustrated because they failed to intuitively understand you, and they feel frustrated because you are pretending all is well when it clearly is not. Stoicism offers a distinct antidote to this behavior. The Stoics valued honesty and clear communication as the path to harmony. Marcus Aurelius spoke of the importance of speaking the truth plainly, without hiding behind turbulent emotions. When you are passive-aggressive, you do the opposite. You conceal your true feelings out of fear of conflict or vulnerability. However, avoiding confrontation does not banish the problem. It allows it to fester until that unspoken resentment explodes in a far uglier manner. Passive aggression is emotional dodgeball. You believe you are avoiding the issue by remaining indirect, but in truth, you are striking people with frustration they cannot remedy. It is like setting a trap that no one can see, then becoming angry when they fail to trigger it. It is unfair to you, and unfair to those around you. Worse still, it makes you appear manipulative and difficult to deal with. It turns a simple conversation into a guessing game that no one wins. The Stoic approach is simple yet profound. Communicate clearly and directly. Yes, it can be terrifying at first, especially if you are accustomed to hiding. But being upfront saves immense emotional energy in the long run. It is about having the strength to say, "This is what is bothering me," without expecting others to solve a puzzle. People respect honesty, even when it is uncomfortable. More importantly, you begin to respect yourself when you stop playing games and start engaging in real conversations. I admit, the first time I expressed my feelings directly instead of sending a cryptic text or offering the cold shoulder, I was afraid. But it was liberating. I faced the issue head-on, and the world did not end. In fact, things improved. People responded with respect, and I felt a weight lift. When you are clear about your feelings, people know where they stand, building authentic connections. So, the next time you feel the urge to give someone the silent treatment, ask yourself, do I want to keep playing this game, or do I want to handle this with maturity? Passive aggression traps you in a cycle of disappointment, whereas clear communication sets you free. Life becomes infinitely easier when you stop expecting mind reading and start speaking your truth. Number 3, never taking responsibility. We all know that person who has an excuse perpetually ready. Perhaps you have been that person. Missed a deadline? The internet failed. Late to a meeting? The traffic was impossible. It is a constant deflection of blame, which feels like a shield against criticism in the moment. But when you always pass the buck, you are not avoiding responsibility. You are avoiding growth. And people notice. When you constantly shift the blame, you are perceived as unreliable. You become the person no one can count on because nothing is ever your fault. Worse, you rob yourself of the chance to improve. Every time you avoid responsibility, you miss an opportunity to learn. The Stoics held a powerful view on this. The only thing we truly control is ourselves, our actions, our reactions, and our decisions. Epictetus famously said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you blame the world, be it traffic, technology, or other people, you surrender your power. You admit that you are not in control. The hard truth is that owning your mistakes is the most empowering action you can take. When you own it, you can fix it. I recall a time at work when I missed a significant deadline. My instinct was to list my usual excuses: too much work, missed emails, technical glitches. But I realized those excuses would not change the outcome. So I tried something different. I told my boss, "I messed up. I did not manage my time well. I will do better." The result? No one lost their temper. In fact, my boss respected me more for my candor, and I felt relieved not to be hiding. Stoicism teaches that taking responsibility is not about weakness. It is about reclaiming control. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become the driver of your life. No one expects perfection. They simply want accountability. When you can say, "I could have done better," you are on the path to growth. Excuses do not protect you. They trap you in mediocrity. If everything is always someone else's fault, there is nothing for you to improve. But when you stop making excuses, you start learning. The people around you will trust you more, knowing you are not someone who flees when things go wrong. So, the next time you are tempted to blame external factors, pause. Ask yourself, what part of this is within my control? You might be surprised by how much is. Own your mistakes, and you will find that people respect you, not because you are perfect, but because you are real. Number 4. Poor hygiene. This seems obvious, yet it is astonishing how often it is overlooked. We are speaking of the basics: regular showers, dental care, clean attire. It sounds simple, yet we all know someone who fails to prioritize these things. Trust me, it affects how you are perceived. Stoicism teaches the importance of self-respect, and hygiene is one of the most fundamental ways to demonstrate that respect. It is not merely about smelling pleasant. It is about signaling to the world that you value yourself enough to care for your vessel. You might think that if you are a good person, people will overlook your appearance. But the harsh reality is that people notice. If you neglect your hygiene, they wonder what else you are neglecting. Poor hygiene signals that you may be disorganized, unreliable, or lazy. The Stoics understood that our external behavior reflects our internal state of mind. It is all connected. Hygiene is something we can control entirely. It is a form of discipline, doing what needs to be done even when you do not feel like it. I know that during rough times, skipping these routines feels like an easy shortcut. I have been there, dragging myself through dark days and letting the basics slide. But I did not realize that neglecting my hygiene was pulling me down further. It became a cycle. The worse I felt, the less I cared, and the less I cared, the worse I felt. It took a friend asking, "Are you okay?" for me to see how far I had slipped. Stoicism views self-care as a duty. When you neglect it, you are telling yourself, "I am not worth the effort," and that mentality can spiral. Conversely, a simple shower or fresh clothes can shift your mindset. When you care for the small things, you gain the momentum to tackle the larger challenges. Good hygiene is a form of self-respect that commands respect from others. It removes a barrier to connection. You are showing up as your best self, regardless of the chaos around you. So, if you have been neglecting the basics, take this as your sign to reset. Do it not for others, but for yourself. When you feel clean and put together, life feels a little easier to handle. Number 5. Constant complaining. Life throws curveballs, and while it feels good to vent occasionally, there is a fine line between healthy expression and falling into the trap of perpetual grievance. We all know the type, someone who finds a reason to gripe regardless of how fortunate their situation may be. It is too hot. It is too cold. The coffee is weak. They could be in paradise and still find a flaw. If you are thinking, "I do not know anyone like that," you might want to check if that person is you. I have been there myself. Complaining feels harmless in the moment, but it has a way of dragging everyone down. If every time you speak it is to complain, people will distance themselves to avoid that dark cloud. Stoicism teaches that while we cannot control events, we control our response. Complaining is often a default reaction when reality contradicts our desires. However, when you focus constantly on what is wrong, you train your mind to ignore what is right. Complaining becomes a mental habit that locks you into a loop of negativity. Epictetus said, "We suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgments about them." Every time we complain, we reinforce those negative judgments instead of finding solutions or accepting what is out of our control. The Stoics would argue that when you find yourself trapped in a cycle of complaining, you are squandering your energy on matters beyond your control, while simultaneously neglecting the very things you have the power to change. It requires a fundamental shift in mindset. Rather than fixating on what is wrong, you begin to focus on what actionable steps you can take. If the situation is immutable, then the Stoic way is to let it go. Complaining fixes nothing. It merely amplifies the problem and cements your stagnation. Once I came to this realization, I made a conscious, deliberate effort to catch myself whenever the urge to complain arose. It was not an easy task at first, but over time, I observed a profound transformation, not only in how others responded to me, but in how I viewed myself. The truth is that constant complaining stems from a feeling of powerlessness. It is akin to declaring, "I cannot affect change here, so I shall simply dwell on the negative." However, Stoicism reminds us that there is always something within our power, even if that something is merely the adjustment of our own attitude. Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote of gratitude as a potent weapon against negative thinking. When your mind is occupied with what you are thankful for, there remains no space for complaint. It is a practice that requires patience, yet it is entirely worthy of the effort. Instead of bemoaning a cold office, I began to think, at least I am employed in a place that is comfortable enough to work in. That subtle shift in perspective does not alter the physical reality, but it completely transforms your emotional experience of it. And here is the most rewarding part. When you cease complaining, people notice. They feel a sense of lightness in your presence. You become the person who elevates a conversation rather than the one who drags it into the depths. Humanity is naturally drawn to positivity, to those who focus on solutions rather than problems. Complaining may offer a fleeting sense of release in the moment, but it never leads to growth or progress. It simply keeps you spinning in a vortex of negativity. Yet when you begin to practice gratitude, even for the smallest details, life feels different, lighter. The people around you will thank you for it as well. So, the next time you catch yourself on the verge of a complaint, whether it concerns the weather, your profession, or the fact that the coffee does not taste quite right, pause. Ask yourself, is this something I can change? And if not, is it worth my limited energy? Instead of succumbing to the habit of complaint, attempt to find one thing, no matter how minute, to be grateful for. It will not only alter how others perceive you, it will alter how you perceive yourself. That is the essence of Stoicism, choosing our response, regardless of what life throws our way. Number 6. Being chronically late. This is one of those habits that can creep up on you insidiously, as it does not always seem like a grave offense at the start. You might think, "Oh, I am merely 5 minutes late. No one will notice." But here is the reality. Those 5 minutes begin to accumulate, and before you know it, you have become that person who is perpetually late. Whether it is a business meeting, a dinner with friends, or a casual gathering, people begin to expect that you will never arrive on time. Trust me, this sends a message, one you might not even realize you are broadcasting. I used to be that person. I believed that being fashionably late was of no consequence. In fact, I harbored the notion that it was somewhat cool, as if it added an air of mystique. But let us be honest. There is nothing fashionable about it. When you are constantly late, what you are truly telling people is, "My time is more important than yours." That is the message, whether you intend it or not. The more I engaged in this behavior, the more I realized it was not merely about time management. It was a reflection of deeper issues, such as my respect for others, and even my own anxiety about being fully present. Stoicism teaches us the value of discipline and showing up fully, which includes punctuality. When you are late, you are not only disrespecting another person's schedule, you are disrespecting the opportunity to be fully engaged in life. Marcus Aurelius spoke often of treating each moment as precious because time is the one resource we can never reclaim. Every time you are late, you are wasting not only other people's time but your own. The Stoics believed in being present and making the most of the time we have. Showing up late is the antithesis of that philosophy. Furthermore, being late often has less to do with poor organization and more to do with avoidance. Sometimes we are late because we are trying to evade something. Perhaps it is the anxiety of a significant meeting or a reluctance to face a difficult conversation. For me, I realized I was using lateness as a buffer. If I arrived late, I did not have to be the first one there, fully present and ready to engage. It was a mechanism for protecting myself from uncomfortable situations. But here's the truth. Stoicism teaches us to face life head-on. Avoiding discomfort does not make it disappear. It merely delays the inevitable. Showing up late is often a symptom of avoiding the reality that stands before you. The Stoics believed that living virtuously means taking responsibility for your actions, and punctuality is something you can absolutely control. It is about respecting yourself enough to honor your commitments and respecting others enough to value their time. When you start making the effort to be on time, you tell the world, "I respect your time, and I respect mine as well." It is a small adjustment that can have a massive impact on how people perceive you. You become someone who is reliable, trustworthy, and fully present. I had to make tangible changes in my own life to break the habit of lateness. I began setting alarms earlier, planning my day with greater care, and most importantly, I changed my mindset. Instead of thinking, "I can get away with being 5 minutes late," I started thinking, "I want to honor this commitment by showing up fully and on time." Let me tell you, it made a world of difference. Not only did people notice, but I felt better too. I was no longer rushing in at the last minute, stressed and flustered. I was calm, prepared, and ready to engage with whatever was happening. So if you are someone who is always running late, it is time for a change, not just for the sake of others, but for yourself. Start by being honest about why you are late. Are you avoiding something? Are you failing to prioritize your time? Once you get real about the reasons, you can begin making the necessary adjustments. Set your alarms earlier, leave your house 10 minutes before you think you need to, and practice the Stoic principle of showing up for life exactly as it is. The more you do this, the more respect you will earn from others and from yourself. Because the truth is, being on time isn't just about respect for others. It is about showing that you value your own life and the moments you have been given. Number 7. Playing the victim. This is a difficult habit to break because, honestly, it feels safe. When things go wrong, it is easy to slip into the mindset of, "Why does this always happen to me?" Or, "It is not my fault, it is simply bad luck." It can feel comforting to believe that the universe is conspiring against you, as though you are the main character in a tragic story that keeps getting rewritten in the worst possible way. But here is the reality. Playing the victim is not just exhausting for the people around you, it is exhausting for you. More importantly, it is a trap. It keeps you stuck in the same cycle with no means of escape. When you play the victim, you are surrendering your power. You are handing over control of your life to circumstances, to other people, to things you cannot change. It may be comforting in the moment, but it is also a form of self-sabotage. Stoicism, on the other hand, teaches the exact opposite. The Stoics believed that while we cannot control everything that happens to us, we can always control how we respond. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That is the key right there. When you play the victim, you are reacting to life as if you have no say in what happens next. But the truth is, you have more control than you think. Life will always throw curveballs. That is inevitable. What matters is how you choose to handle them. Are you going to sit back and say, "This is just my bad luck"? Or are you going to ask, "What can I learn from this? How can I grow?" Playing the victim often stems from fear of failure, fear of not being good enough, fear of owning up to your mistakes. It is far easier to say, "This is not my fault," than to look in the mirror and ask, "What could I have done differently?" Trust me, I know how hard that is. There was a time when I could not face the fact that some of my problems were of my own making. It was easier to blame circumstances, other people, or simply bad luck. But the moment I stopped doing that was the moment things began to change. When I took ownership of my role in situations, both the good and the bad, I realized I had the power to change my life. Here is the kicker. Playing the victim does not just hurt you, it hurts the people around you too. It is draining. No one wants to be around someone who is constantly in a state of "poor me." It is like a dark cloud that follows you everywhere, and after a while, people start to avoid it. They might feel sympathy for you at first, but over time that sympathy turns into frustration. Why? Because deep down, people know that you have the ability to take control, and watching you refuse to do so is frustrating. They see the potential in you that you are not tapping into. And here is something the Stoics would say. When you play the victim, you are missing out on an incredible opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that life's challenges were actually chances to practice virtue. Instead of seeing setbacks as personal attacks, he viewed them as a way to strengthen his character. What if instead of asking, "Why does this always happen to me?" you asked, "How can this make me stronger?" That shift in mindset changes everything. Suddenly, life isn't happening to you. It is happening for you. Every challenge becomes a chance to become a better version of yourself. The Stoic approach is simple but powerful. Take ownership of your life. When you stop playing the victim, you start taking responsibility for what happens next. It is not about blaming yourself for everything that goes wrong. It is about recognizing that you always have a choice in how you respond. That is where your power lies. When you stop waiting for the world to change and start changing yourself, amazing things can happen. You start to feel less like life is happening to you and more like you are in control of your own destiny. So the next time you catch yourself slipping into that victim mentality, pause. Ask yourself, am I really powerless here, or am I just afraid to take control? Shift your mindset from, "Why is this happening to me?" to, "What can I do about it?" When you stop playing the victim, you step into a position of strength. You take your power back. Life will still throw challenges your way. That is a given. But instead of being knocked down by them, you will stand up taller, ready to face whatever comes next. That is the power of Stoicism, and that is the power of owning your life. Remember, life does not happen to you. It happens for you. Every challenge, every setback, every bad habit you break is an opportunity to grow, to become stronger, to live more intentionally. You have the power to take control of your life, to rise above these habits and to be the best version of yourself. If you found this video helpful, make sure to check out one of the suggested videos on your screen for more insights to keep you on your path. Thank you for being a part of Stoic Journal, where we strive for progress, not perfection. Stay strong, and I will see you next time.